Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sacramento Children's Fund Guaranteed Basic Income NOFO Notice of Funding Opportunity Bidders Conference. We'll just take a couple minutes to see if anyone else hops on, and then we'll begin. Just for your information, this meeting is being recorded. We'll be posting it to the website later for everybody's reference. And so in a few short minutes, we'll get started. Okay, I think we can get started today, and if people come on a little later, they can always catch up with the recording, which will be posted to our website later this week. So again, my name's Julie Guerin. I'm the program specialist working on the Sacramento Children's Fund. I lead the project. We also have other city staff here, Andrew Cotta and Tamara Richardson, our analysts working on the Sacramento Children's Fund. And then we have our program manager, Renee Cosson, as well. So I'm going to be leading the presentation. We have a small group, so we will have time for questions at the end of the presentation. I'm hoping to leave a significant amount of time for that. And feel free to pop questions in the chat, and I'll get to them as soon as I can, or at the end, you can turn on your mic and ask questions verbally as well. Again, as I mentioned, this is being recorded. So welcome. We're really, really excited to have finally released our Notice of Funding Opportunity for the Sacramento Children's Fund Guaranteed Basic Income Program. We have opened the solicitation as of 12/10, and we will be giving approximately 60 days for submissions with the closing date of February 9th. So just for today's bidders conference, we'll be going over a very brief background. Then we will do an overview of the opportunity. We'll look at the timeline, the application process, and the questions. And in there as well, we'll look at the scoring criteria, as well as a little bit of what, just from our own mouths, what we're looking for, and the scope and program requirements. So I'm sure all of you are familiar, but briefly we'll say that this GBI program is coming as a result of the Sacramento Children's Fund, Measure L, which was passed in November 2022 after decades of community advocacy. So the Sacramento Children's Fund is funded via the city's general fund, which is calculated by an annual allocation of 40% of local cannabis business tax revenue. And so we have an estimation every year, and we will look at how much we get at the end of that year. But we have essentially a 5-year strategic investment plan that gives us an estimated amount of funding that we can allocate towards programming. So Measure L supports youth development and violence prevention programs for Sacramento children and youth less than 25 years of age. Our first strategic investment plan was adopted by City Council in September of 2024. And that strategic investment plan said that 20% of the 5-year fund would be invested in guaranteed basic income for transitional age foster youth. And so the result of that a portion of the strategic investment plan is that the city is now putting forth this NOFO for GBI. Okay, so standard overview of the opportunity. The Sacramento Children's Fund GBI NOFO will run from July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2031. That is what the time frame that we have available. So initial funding will begin with a 3-year term and is eligible for 2 additional years subject to performance review and fund availability. So applicants do not have to apply for full 5 years. If they want to apply for 4 years, they are eligible to do so, but we are giving the opportunity to apply for up to 5 years. Eligible applicants include 501c3 nonprofit organizations and non-city public entities. Collaborative applicants are also acceptable and encouraged. Grant amounts. So each applicant can apply for up to $1.6 million per year for up to 5 years. That totals out to essentially we're offering $8 million over 5 years. The city will fund an initial 3-year grant period for up to $4.8 million, and then subsequent 1-year grant periods could be funded after the initial term. So matching funds, it's a requirement per Measure L that the City of Sacramento will administer grants with the following requirements. 501c3s have no matching fund requirement. Non-city public entities have a 100% cash match requirement, the dollar for dollar. And any non-city public entity that intends to apply, that applies must demonstrate a cash match for each dollar it receives from the fund. Okay, so who is eligible to apply? Again, a little bit more on the requirements. You must have an organizational budget at or above $3 million in the current or most recent fiscal year. Have at least 1 year of experience administering either a GBI or a UBI program to children or youth, birth through 24 years old in the last 5 years, and must be either a public agency or 501c3. You must provide proof of the required liability insurance if funded. So that's a requirement that actually applies after the award. Demonstrate the operational capacity and ability to fulfill a program and administrative requirements and deadlines outlined. And you must be in good standing with the city. So moving on. I briefly touched on this, but how much funding is available? Again, as you can see, we have a projected Measure L fund for the full 5 years. 20% of that projected fund comes out to roughly $8.1 million. In this NOFO, we're offering $8 million, which is the estimated funding. And the city intends to award one applicant an initial 3-year agreement up to $4.8 million. With the hope and intention to extend that contract if you're applying for up to 5 years, for example, based on performance review and fund availability. Okay, our tentative timeline. As you are all well aware, we've released the NOFO on December 10th. We'll be closing the NOFO on February 9th by 5 p.m. And we'll have a Q&A open from now until January 12th by 5 p.m. So we encourage you to get your questions in early and up until that point. Our process for Q&A is that we receive the questions, we draft them, we often have to consult with city attorney, and then we will post them to our website, and that notification goes out through GMS as well. We plan to, we're currently recruiting and have established several panelists for a panel review advisory committee. And we plan to conduct proposal review in February, from February likely into March. And we hope to award an applicant by March 31st, 2026. We then, due to the size of this contract, will need to go to City Council for approval. And we will also then negotiate the contract and hope to execute and begin by July 1. I put tentative timeline because we just want to make sure we have a significant amount of time to reach all of these milestones, but especially proposal review, going to council and negotiating a contract can sometimes take longer than we think. But we're hoping actually to have it done sooner rather than later. So program scope. Now we're going into the section where we're looking at what are we actually looking for in the program that you're going to propose. So guaranteed basic income recipients must meet the following criteria. Participants must be youth in or transitioning out of foster care ages 16 to 24. Participants' income is at or below 300% of the federal poverty level. And participants must consider the County of Sacramento to be home, prior residency and residency of an immediate family member, history of attending a K-12 school, or currently receiving homeless services within the City or County of Sacramento. And you can look into the RFP and especially into the scoring criteria questions and the scoring criteria matrix. There is some more detailed information about how the city does require that the applicant collect this information. However, we're hoping that it's not too burdensome or that it does not deter participants. And so some methods that have been encouraged are, for example, self-attestation, etc. So we're looking really to the applicant to work out the best case scenario for how to verify residency. Okay, program scope and requirements. Guaranteed basic income programs must provide cash transfer payments that meet the following minimum criteria. The key word here is minimum. So we hope that it's required that the program you propose at least meets these requirements. It does not mean, however, that you do need to serve this exact number. But what we are hoping is that you all who are the experts in this field, who have the experience, will propose the best case scenario program that fits the population in Sacramento, the needs, and as well as the capacity of your organization. So please propose programs that will be successful and meet the needs of Sacramento foster youth transition or Sacramento youth transitioning out of foster care. So the minimum requirements are 100 to serve a minimum of 100 individual eligible participants to receive cash payments with a minimum monthly amount of $750. And the guaranteed basic income should be offered to eligible participants for a minimum of a 2-year benefit period. This does not exclude participants who age out or drop out before the end of the benefit period. They should still be eligible to receive benefits for as long as they are eligible to do so or as long as they stay in the program. So there will be no penalty. For example, if you offer a 2-year benefit period, but the applicant can only receive payments for 1 year, that would still be allowable. Okay, more on the program scope. So we are requiring that the guaranteed basic income programs have a comprehensive outreach and enrollment strategy, that they provide a fast and efficient and low burden mechanism for fund disbursement to participants. Disbursement platforms are highly encouraged. We want to see proposals that have already worked out or have a plan on how they will be dispersing the cash payments. And disbursement platforms are also an eligible expense under this NOFO. So if you would like to include that in your application, that can also be included in your budget. Provide optional wraparound services such as housing navigation, peer support, group mentorship, LGBTQ plus supportive services, financial counseling, mental health resources, job search assistance, and connections to family resource centers, community incubator leads, and parenting or public health support as some examples. I have put financial counseling in bold. That is a particular interest of the Sacramento Planning and Oversight Commission to have financial counseling as one of the wraparound services offered. Okay, as well, we would also like to provide or to have optional public benefits counseling at enrollment provided, and as well as to pursue benefit protection for recipients such as waivers available for CalWORKs, CalFresh, housing, childcare, transportation, and utility assistance. Essentially, we just really want to make sure that foster youth who are receiving these cash payments are not then losing out on other benefits. Okay, one of our last requirements is that the applicant must partner with a third-party evaluator to assess program effectiveness and submit individual level data to the city, providing the following. Individuals referred to the GI program and eligibility, enrollment and dropout dates, demographic information, which may include date of birth, gender identity, and race ethnicity, programmatic data, including participation in benefit counseling and dates of GI payments were dispersed. So these are some examples. We are flexible, but we do need to see per Measure L, the Sacramento Children's Fund must be evaluated. And so we have to have a evaluation component for this guaranteed basic income program. Okay, moving on to proposal rating criteria. I'm sure you have all seen in the RFP the rating criteria. We have organizational and partner experience and capacity for 20 points. Program design and readiness for 40 points. And so just a note for program design and readiness, the panel will be reviewing the attachment 1, which is the cover page and narrative questions to assess this. And they'll also be looking at attachment 2, which is the work plan that is required to be submitted, as that will help the panel determine how you've planned out to launch the program, enroll participants, how ready you are. And so that 40-point rating factor, just so you know, will be scored using the attachment 1 narrative questions as well as the timeline work plan. All right, we'll also be looking at outreach and enrollment strategy as a rating factor for 20 points. And that is also going to be scored using the narrative questions, as well as there is a portion where if the applicant, for example, can include or speak to existing MOUs or letters of intent with organizations that would help with the enrollment and outreach to these participants, that could help you score higher in this rating criteria. All right, and then number 4, the budget and budget narrative. That's going to be 2 separate attachments, but they will be both scored under the 120-point rating factor. So this is the score points that the panel will be using. And however, all final awards are subject to City Council approval per the award amount. As well as, apologies, I forgot to mention that there is a preference points for local business entities, which means that if you're a local business entity local to San Francisco, San Francisco, Sacramento, then you could be eligible to receive 5 points. It's an easy form that you fill out, and the city is able to check if you're registered. So that is an eligible preference point for a total of 105 points. Hey, I'm not going to go through every single document here. It's all written out in the RFP, but we do have the required attachments that will need to be uploaded to GMS in order for you to have a full and complete application and to not be disqualified. We need to have attachments 1 through 5, which have been uploaded on the GMS portal, so you can download them, fill them up, fill them out, and then re-upload them onto GMS. If you do encounter any problems, please, we have the GMS technical assistance email, which I have later in the slide deck, as well as you can access the Q&A through GMS, which I also have later in the slide deck to show you. But make sure that you have all 5, you need to have the 4 attachments and attachment 5 as optional if you're going for the preference points in order to have a complete application. These are the supporting documentation that are also required. This is listed. There is a checklist as part of GMS that you can reference as you're working on your application to make sure that you have everything. As you can see, letters of intent, non-binding letters of intent or MOUs, and proof of insurance are optional. However, as I mentioned earlier, including MOUs or letters of intent may help you score higher on your proposal. Okay, so that was a lot of information. I'm going to slow down a little bit now that we got through that, and I wanted to speak a little bit to what the city is really looking for here. First of all, I'll just say that we are not Sacramento Children's Fund. We're not necessarily experts at guaranteed basic income, but we really are looking at this like that the city of Sacramento is now putting a huge investment towards this GBI program, and we really want to make sure that we're successful in impacting the lives of these foster youth with the Sacramento Children's Fund. And so we're really looking to you all. We tried to make this NOFO, a little bit open so that you all could come to us with your, best case scenario, the best use of the funds, and the best scope based on not only like your organizational knowledge and experience, but also the local needs and the needs of the participants. So we're really leaning on you all, like, please, we've given you 60 days so that you can have time to really put a lot of thought into how you would approach this and what the best proposal is, and to submit that to us so that, because we know you all are the experts and we want to see what do you think would be the best approach to this, and how can we make sure that we're successful with this large investment that we're putting out there. So that's just something we wanted to communicate. We really want to see a demonstration of your organization's experience administering GBI, a UBI program. As you noted, that is a requirement to apply, is we need to see that you've had experience with a GBI or UBI program in the past 5 years. And we want to see that you understand the participant population, especially the local participant population. And that's reflected in your proposal as you're telling us about how you plan to outreach and enroll participants, and how you plan to give them access to benefit counseling, and how you plan to disperse the payments, right? I think that's all very important. Like, do you have experience with the GBI UBI program, and do you have experience with this particular population? Again, top scoring applications will have established MOUs, agreements, or letters of intention with entities that administer extended foster care programming and provide a dependable method to contact and enroll eligible participants. If you don't have an already established MOU, that's okay. Do you intend to get that MOU? Are you pursuing it? If not, then please articulate clearly how you plan to enroll foster youth in this, or sorry, transitional age foster youth aging out of the system. How are you planning to contact them? Is it going to be, you know, a system where you give the program information to perhaps the caseworker, and then it's on the onus of the participant to reach out to your organization to enroll? Or will you already have an established MOU or some sort of understanding where you can actually contact them directly? We want to see a clear enrollment strategy that would lead to success in program enrollment. Again, are you going to be doing a rolling enrollment? We anticipate that there'll be continuously youth aging out of the system that might qualify for this program. And if you want to serve more, will you be then having a rolling enrollment? So those sort of details and a nice plan is going to be helpful. Again, if you do have established MOUs or you're planning to establish them, please include that in the application and the proposal. For the budget, we've tried to simplify things a little bit based on feedback from our past NOFOs. So we're asking for this budget that you please provide budget information for the full program budget, the funding request budget, as well as any matching funds. And so essentially what we're asking for, which is a little bit different, is we don't want to see in the proposal a year-by-year breakdown. We want to see your full budget. So if you're applying for 5 years, submit one budget that reflects the full 5 years. Now, the one caveat to that is if we do select you, before we execute the contract, we are going to want to see a breakdown of the budget year by year. But what we found is that it's far easier for the panel to comprehend what the full scope of the budget looks like. If we're just looking at the whole program budget as a whole, that'll be easier to score and understand. And keep in mind, while you are developing the budget, that the total benefit payments should not be less than 40% of the total program budget, which we feel still leaves a large amount of 60% for all of the other program costs. Okay. So the application process, I think most of you may be familiar with GMS, which is our grants management portal for the city of Sacramento. It's fairly straightforward. I know these screenshots are hard to see, but you can submit an application for the GMS portal. We have the link to the NOFO in the chat right now. So that's the easiest way. If you haven't started yet, you can go in there, access the NOFO, create a login, and start your application. We do always have technical support for GMS, we'll put that technical support email in the chat as well, but it's easily accessible via that GMS website. We do always encourage you to please not wait until the last minute to submit applications or proposals. It's happened numerous times at the city where somehow, people are rushing and then they upload blank attachments. And whatever we get by 5 p.m. on February 9th is what your proposal will be. We cannot go back and give people the second chance, unfortunately, because that would require us to reopen the RFP. So it's just easiest. Please try uploading your documents, 2 to 3 days in advance. So you don't hit any hiccups with that 5 p.m. deadline, which is pretty strict. Okay, the Q&A. So we do anticipate, we always have a lot of Q&A questions. We really do our best. So we have the Q&As open now. The easiest way to ask a question is, again, through the GMS portal. You have the apply and / ask a question buttons at the top right corner. And those questions were notified when they come in. The one thing I would just let you all know is that, we receive those questions and then we We actually draft them as a document and publish the answers to the website. And then after that, we can then input them onto the GMS, just reply via GMS. But we try to answer everyone's questions at the same time to make it fair. So the turnaround time varies just because we are drafting answers. We have to confer with city attorney. We do our best to continuously post and update the Q&A depending on the number and complexity of the questions. So just you'll be notified as soon as one is published. And that's where you're going to be asking your questions. Looks like here's where our GMS technical support email is, grants@cityofsacramento.org. So again, if you are having any technical difficulties with the grant, like your application is not uploading or you got locked out of your login, all those TA questions, those are going to go through GMS technical support, and then any other NOFO related Q&A questions, those will go through the Ask a Question portal, which will be part of our Q&A response. Okay, so that concludes our presentation, short and sweet. I highly encourage you to read through the RFP thoroughly. If you want background, the strategic investment plan, which is also linked in the NOFO itself, and our Measure L website are helpful background information. However, I would say most of the content that you will need for this proposal is held in the GBI NOFO itself. The strategic investment plan, although they did make this amazing allocation to GBI for 20%, did not have a lot of recommendations in this particular investment set aside. And so although it's very useful to learn about the fund and the fund goals, this particular program, the most of the requirements and information are solely held in the NOFO itself. So at this time, I'm going to stop talking and take any questions in the chat. You're also free to unmute yourself and ask a verbal question, however anyone feels comfortable. Thank you.
Hi, Julie. This is Kurt Lewis from United Way. How are you?
Hi, Kurt. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Doing all right. I'm doing all right. Well, excited that this is coming. That's for sure. And I've got a few quick questions, but
Sure.
One practical one, letters of support. Can those be included in the application as well?
Yes, they can.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's just an easy upload to GMS.
Okay. Yeah. I saw the letters of yeah, the other letters for our partners or potential partners, but I was just curious about that. Lastly, one other question we had was just around the surveys and the reporting schedules. Is the interest for the surveys to roughly correspond to that, or is there a specific frequency in mind as it relates to how often you'd like to capture survey information from program participants?
We're really willing to work with you on that. That is, it's sort of standard boilerplate language for our Sacramento Children's Fund agreements and NOFOs, because we are required to conduct a pretty thorough evaluation. However, we recognize that guaranteed basic income might be a little bit different than some of the other open grants programming. So honestly, we're willing to work with you all on that as long as we are collecting sort of a baseline amount of data. If the survey fits into that and you guys want to pursue that, then that's great. And if you have alternative ideas, we'd be willing to negotiate that portion.
Gotcha.
I see Carmen, you have your hand up.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hello.
I also support United Way, and I have two questions, please. So the first, I appreciate that the NOFO and the program requires the administrator of the program to partner with a third-party evaluator. Does the city already have a third-party evaluator that it is partnering with?
The city is currently in the process of contracting with a third-party evaluator to evaluate the fund. And what we asked of them, I know you didn't particularly ask this, but I think it's relevant information. What we've sort of communicated and asked of them is that we're not requiring them to evaluate GBI because we would like your program to do it. However, we are asking them to collaborate at some point to include, because they are required to produce an entire like 3 and 5 year report of the entire fund. And so we're hoping to be able to collaborate to just plug in some of that GBI data, at least like a 1-pager or something, so that we can include it and we have one evaluation that fully encapsulates, at least in part, some of the data. And then if we have to have a separate evaluation of GBI because it's so different and standalone, that's fine. But we're hoping to have one report that could include sort of a nod to the GBI and how that is a huge part of the fund, really.
Okay. Yeah. You know that United Way has run a guaranteed basic income program before, which we evaluated. So there's that. But do you have a reason to know whether the city frowns on or encourages or is agnostic about working with the same evaluator that you all are working with? I'm trying to think about efficiencies here. I'm going to be honest. I haven't talked to my team about it. This is just a question that came
Yeah.
up just listening.
I think that I don't see how that would be a bad thing. However, it's not a requirement. I don't foresee us in this NOFO scoring higher or lower for that particular, if that were the case, but I
Yeah.
don't see it as a bad thing. We're requiring the third-party evaluator because, as I said, we we need to do so, but we understand that, we're trying to leave it up to you, like that there's many avenues to take for that. So it's just, sorry, I'm trying to come up with the right words. That's a great idea. However, I guess I would say we're neutral about it at this point.
Okay. And
It's not part
also
of the scoring criteria.
fair. And you haven't even settled on an evaluator yet. So that may not be information that we could get from you before submitting anyway, maybe.
It might be. We're literally in the process, and so I can't say exactly who is in
Sure.
the running right now, but it's we're starting to open contract negotiations, and so you might know who that is
Okay.
prior to submission.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So that one question turned into two. This is my real second question. My real
Okay.
second question is, who is on the grading panel? I'm not asking for specifics. I guess I'm trying to appreciate like just the general constitution. And I apologize if this is already somewhere. I haven't read it yet.
No. So we're currently openly recruiting for the advisory review panel. We are recruiting, we want to have, we have, let's say, we have our intentions of who our perfect panel would include, and that would be youth voice. We're absolutely looking for someone with lived experience, professionals who have worked with transitional age foster youth, perhaps also any public entities that have run a GBI program or administered a GBI program to have that perspective. We also would like to include Sacramento Children's Fund Planning and Oversight Commissioners, as well as potentially Sacramento Youth Commission commissioners. So those are some of the people that we have our eye on. And then I would also say, as well as depending on who applies, we may look to recruit people working at the county in child and youth services, and we may look to recruit other professionals from other jurisdictions that work in child and youth services or have administered GBI programs. So that's sort of our ideal panelists. Again, what we always have to consider is panelists do have to go through a pretty thorough conflict review process based off of not only their conflicts, but then based off the list of applicants. So there's that to consider. So we don't have an established panel, and we can't have a full final list until we have the list of submitted proposals.
Right. Okay. Thank you for those answers.
Yeah. I'll keep it open for a little while. I don't see any other questions in the chat.
Julie.
Yeah, I think there's the question from Jill in there.
Oh, yes, I see that now.
I've got a follow-up about eligibility, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. Yeah, no
thank you,
problem.
Kurt. I was just going to bring it up.
Okay, so I'll read it. So what if youth are placed in Sacramento, but their case of origin is outside of Sac? Are they eligible? Yes, I believe they would be eligible. We are, so per the measure, we are, these dollars are to serve Sacramento youth, ages birth through 24 years of age, most impacted by trauma, poverty, and violence. And so we want to serve Sacramento youth. We know that this population is often not necessarily going to be in one place. They might, have different locations for various reasons. So we're open to any sort of scenarios that go outside of, a strict Sacramento address. We just want to make sure that, within reason, that we're not somehow serving a bunch of youth from San Francisco, right? But we really want to hear, again, we're not the experts in this field, you all are, so we'd love to have your approach to how to verify eligibility and draw those lines. I see, Renee, did you have something to say?
Thank you,
Yeah,
Julie.
I was just going to pop in really quick. Jill, I think I know where the question stems from. I came from Monterey County Child Welfare. So I know if a youth is from out of state and then it is coming here for placement, that out of state status sometimes is open. So it doesn't matter. It just is dependent that they are currently a Sacramento resident. So it doesn't matter where the origin of their case may have been, if I'm understanding your question correctly.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kind of related to that, because I noticed there was the phrase in there that talks about one of the eligibility requirements is if you were previously a resident of county, but you still have a family member, I believe, or who is a resident in the county that would make, but it sounds like there still is going to be some kind of geographical boundary there for current residency. Am I right in saying that? And if so, how far might that go out? And then kind of follow up to that would be for individuals who move out of the area, would that then lead to a discontinuation of payments?
Yeah, so I can't say that we've thought out every potential avenue as far as, if they move out, if the payments will be stopped. I think what we've sort of landed on is I'm going to say we want you to propose what you think based upon the population, based upon your experience, what would be your approach? And I think, we have, again, in the RFP, we wrote that, yes, we do need to verify residency. We're not trying to be extremely strict because we know about this population, and that we have also seen examples in our research. We saw examples of self-attestation as a form of eligibility verification, and we wouldn't be opposed to that. So I think that might be one way to alleviate some of the fears that we might be too restrictive with the geographical requirement.
No, that helps. And yeah, we've learned a lot over the last couple of years from our cohorts that we've launched. And so we'll definitely make sure to bring those thoughts to the table in the application. But thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
just
you.
to add to that again, Kurt, I know often youth are moving around a lot. And so it could be that you hear from them 2 weeks before they're going to move out of the county or out of state. I don't see us being strict, as Julie said, but when we go to put data forward and we say 10% of youth, moved out of Sacramento in the duration, but we continued payment through the 2-year period that they were entitled funds. I think it's going to really be up to the commission because they're the ones that included GBI as one of the funding priorities for Children's Fund to look at and say like, hey, next time we want to, cut off those funds, whatever the case may be. We don't want to be policy writers in our RFP. And we know there's state law that kind of guides some of these parameters. So we're trying to be really careful about what we put in there as a policy or parameter for GBI. If that makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah, it does.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
I see a hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, just a quick question. In terms of the design for the program, and I don't know if there were any particular thoughts in creating the RFP around the age requirements within 18 to 24. So if individuals are eligible at age 24, I know there in the language of Measure L, there's a priority for what youth is defined. If they're outside of that age range by the end of the program, how does that work in terms of eligibility? I just wanted to confirm that aspect.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, per the measure, it's birth through age 24, which actually means up to their 25th birthday. But that's pretty strict. So technically, like we can't, it's written in law, it's written in the measure. We can't give Sacramento Children's Fund to youth past the age of 25. And so for eligibility, it's essentially that they may receive benefit payments up until their 25th birthday. And at that point, they would then become ineligible per the measure. But you can enroll them at age 24 and a half and give them 6 months of benefit payments. But at that age 25, because of the measure cutoff, then they are no longer eligible to receive Sacramento Children's Fund dollars. I hope that helps clarify.
Yes, that is helpful.
Any other questions? All right, well, I'm not seeing any, but I would just, again, I would say that we're really excited. We realize that this is a very complex program. It's part of the reason it took us so long to develop the NOFO, so we thank you for your patience. We're really looking forward to launching this program and working with you all and to reading your proposals. So we'll be available. I'll put the SCF at cityofsacramento.org in the chat. That's our direct contact, but we do really need to receive questions pertaining to the NOFO via the GMS, because that's the official Q&A line. So if you want your question answered via Q&A, you'll need to submit it there. But we are available to you through our Sacramento Children's Fund email as well. So seeing no other questions or comments, I think we'll be conclude this bidders conference. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your questions, and we really look forward to seeing your applications.
Thank
Thank
you all
you.
so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.